Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today is a very exciting video because we will be doing my October TBR using not just my TBR game Laser and Egedishnisht, but we will also be taking part in Spookoplathon hosted by Becca and the Books. Alright guys, so every month I use my TBR game, which is based off of Mensch Egedishnisht, which is very similar to Parcheesi, to select my monthly TBR. I will be using this board, of course, this month as well, but on top of that, I will be taking part in Spookoplathon, which is hosted by Becca and the Books, and this is based off of her TBR game Spookopoly, which is based off of Monopoly, and I will of course have her link down below along with the announcement video for the readathon, which is starting on October 1st and goes through the end of October. This will be my third year taking part in this readathon. It's usually held in September, but this year she was living life and traveling, and so it has been pushed to October, which is very exciting because we love a spooky season themed readathon. In this video, I will be doing 5 rolls for my TBR game and then 5 rolls for Becca's game. I am able to double up and use a book that I used for my TBR game on her TBR game as well, but I will tell you right now, seeing as I've already selected all my books, that I only double up once, so we are being very ambitious this month. Usually with my TBR game, I decide if I need to take a punishment or a reward based on if I completed the previous month's TBR, which in this case would have been August. I did not play the game in August, so we will not be starting with a reward or with a punishment, and we will just be starting with roll number 1. As always, I will go ahead and link my TBR playlist up above, which does include an instruction video, which I believe came out in August since I made some changes to the rules of my game. So please feel free to check that out. Otherwise, my game is usually pretty easy to pick up. All right, I believe that is all the housekeeping that I need to do. Let's go ahead and jump into roll number 1. All right, on to roll number 1 out of 5. A fantasy, a 3, and everyone's home, so I move someone out. All right, the title starts with the letter N, and the word the doesn't count. We'll see how I do. Last time I got this prompt, it was very difficult for some reason. All right, so for roll number 1, we got a fantasy, and this fantasy needs to start with the letter N because my name is Natalie, and I'm gonna be totally honest, I don't like this prompt. I find it very difficult, but I did end up picking an audiobook called Novice Dragoneer by E.E. Knight. This is marketed both as YA and middle grade, or I should say that it's listed under both in Goodreads, so I'm not quite sure where it lands. I'm assuming it's for a younger audience though, but in this book we are following an orphan who dreams of being a dragoneer. At the beginning of this book, she ends up running away from her orphanage to go ahead and go to one of the dragoneering schools, where she is unfortunately very much looked down on because a lot of the people that are going there are from very wealthy and powerful families. There she is faced with many trials as she tries to prove herself being worthy of being a dragoneer, including caring for a sickly dragon with a secretive past and guarding a dragon from enemy territories whose dragoneer has been killed. I really have very little expectations going into this book because I haven't heard much about it other than whenever I initially picked it up, obviously. It has a 4-star rating on Goodreads, but it also has, I think, slightly less than 500 reviews. But hopefully it's a good time. Middle grade is always a little bit hit or miss with me, but I know that dragon schools are super in right now due to Fourth Wing. So maybe if you are a fan of Fourth Wing, you may want to check this book out as well. All right, roll number 2 out of 5. Ooh, sci-fi, or not sci-fi, sorry, horror, thriller, or mystery. And we got a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that'll be easy. A seasonal read. All right, guys, and for roll number 2, we landed on a horror, thriller, or mystery, and that needs to be a seasonal read. And call me Katniss Everdeen because the odds are certainly in my favor with that prompt. It is a perfect time of year to get that, and I am choosing the perfect book for it. I'm choosing The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. Obviously, a haunted house book is meant to be read at this time of year. Darcy Coates is said to be more cozy horror. I am very new to horror, so I'm hoping that her stories might help me acclimate to the genre a little bit more. I have heard both good things and bad things about this book, so I'm very interested to see what I think. I don't know too much about the story other than we are following a woman who inherits this house that a lot of people want to avoid. However, this woman is very much down on her luck, and so she sees this very much as a blessing, but that belief quickly changes when sketchy things start happening. I've read a few haunted house books in the past and they have been hit or miss. It really does depend on the ending, if what is happening in the house is actually paranormal or if there's just some weirdo in the basement kind of situation. So I am very excited to check out this author and see if she's one that I pick up in the future. All right, and on to roll number 3 out of 5. A contemporary. 3, so we gotta move this guy. All right, so this has to have LGBTQ plus a representation. Not hard at all. All right, roll number 3 was a contemporary that needed to have LGBTQ plus representation in it, which I always love. Even though this book is definitely not giving spooky season vibes, it might be a good palate cleanser. This is a book that I picked up during, I think it was called like Stuff Your Kindle, so I got it for free. And it's under 300 pages, so I have a feeling it's just going to be a fun time. And that is Cam Fan by Danny LeKelly. Might have said their name wrong, but this is just a short contemporary novel about a guy who decides to check out those online live shows where I guess you can watch people have sex if you want to. And I believe that he is not aware that he might be queer until he sees one of the actors and becomes like obsessed with him and becomes a big fan of him, and I think they might start interacting online, and this actor invites him to perform with him on camera, and so they start doing that together and they start to realize that they would like to continue to be intimate off the camera as well. I don't know much else about it, have no idea about the rating. I just figured it would be a fun, smutty time, and like I said, a good palate cleanser for all the spookier books I'm checking out this month. All right, and we are on to roll number 4 out of 5. A sci-fi. And a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue a series. So I'll have to check my series list to see what sci-fis I've got going on. Rule number 4 was a sci-fi, and this one had to be a continuation of a series. And this is finally pushing me to pick up Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the second book to Annihilation, which I want to say I read last year in the summer. So it's definitely been over a year since I picked up book 1. I have to admit, I don't know if this is going to be a direct continuation from the first book, because the first book could very much be considered a ending, if not a somewhat open ending, or if this is more a companion novel. But we will see once I get into it. I honestly don't know anything about book 2. These books are semi-short and they're definitely really weird, so I do want to go into it pretty blind. But in the first book, we are following a group of women, part of the, I think, 12th expedition into an area called Area X. This is a swath of land that is covered by kind of this shield that once you go into it, I don't think you can really get out. And none of the previous expeditions have returned. And we're following this expedition as they explore this area and weird things start happening around them and to them. I went ahead and put a hold on this for my library. I read the first one physically, and one of the reasons I've put off reading this for so long is because I really need to pick this up physically as well. It's just pretty heavy sci-fi, which is still something I'm not super familiar with. So I know that if I picked up an audiobook, I would be completely lost. But I have been wanting to pick this up for a while, so I'm very excited to be getting it on this TBR. All right, and moving on to what should be the last roll of the game, 5 out of 5. Another mystery thriller horror. Not too shabby for this time of year. A 3, so we got to move this one. 1, 2, 3. And this horror thriller mystery needs to be by a Hispanic or Latinx author. All right, and for our final roll for my TBR game, we got another horror thriller mystery, and this one is to be written by a Hispanic or Latinx author. For this one, I decided to choose a book that I already have on hold through Libby. It says it'll be here in about 5 weeks, so fingers crossed that I get to it in the month of October. And that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this is going to be a second chance author for me. I read her book, I think it was called Gods of Jade and Shadow, and was very disappointed by I would say the writing style was primarily what bothered me. I felt that it was overly simplistic, the story as a whole. So I keep hearing pretty great things about this story, so I'm hoping that it will redeem this author for me. We seem to be following a young woman from a relatively wealthy family who gets a letter from her cousin asking her to come to her husband's new home because something is wrong. But I believe when she ends up at the home, her cousin is acting like everything is okay, but she decides to stay and weird things start to happen to her. I believe this is set in a historical setting within Mexico and is supposed to have some sort of horror aspect that involves fungi, and I always enjoy horror aspects that are tied to nature. And we also love a house that attacks the people that inhabit it. All right, guys, let's move over to the Spookoplathon board and see what we get. All right, guys, here is the Spookopoly board. Hopefully this is a better angle than I had last year. But just like last year, I am playing with my little glass chicken, and I have my 2 dice here. As you can see, I totally forgot about the tiny cards. Oops. But if I land on a community shelf card, usually those are little squares or little cards that have additional prompts. I will just go ahead and shuffle the cards from my TBR game and use one of those. And then if I land on a chance card, I will go ahead and use a spinning wheel that has 6 books that I'm very interested in and 6 books that I'm slightly less interested in it. So that is what we're gonna do. And just like with my TBR game, we will go ahead and do 5 rolls, and unless of course we get a double. And we'll start with roll number 1. Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's roll number 1 out of 6. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. A mood read. So the game is being both nice and mean to me right now. All right, so we're starting off with a double, but we're also starting off with a mood read. And I do usually select my mood reads on spot, and I know for a fact that I want to read this because I am reading another book this month that kind of goes hand in hand with this. I'm hoping to do a vlog that features both of these books at the same time, and that is The Push by Ashley Audren. This is a relatively well-known and beloved book. I've heard primarily only good things for it, so I am definitely nervous to go into this because I really hope that I like it. In this book, we are following a woman who is very excited to become a mother. However, when her little baby girl is born, she feels like there is something off. However, the more her husband dismisses her, the weirder things get, and the more she's wondering if it's in her head. Then she has her second child, a son, and instantly connects with him and loves him and starts to wonder more and more if there's something wrong with her daughter. I feel the concept of motherhood incredibly interesting, especially if you put it in a horror genre. I myself am not a mother, but I still find it to be an interesting topic and really hope that this is a trope that I come to love. All right, and we are on to roll number 2. And that is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dice roll roulette. I think I will need to double check what that means, but I will go ahead and film that separately, I suppose. All right, guys, so I am done with my rolls. I'm gonna do the dice roll roulette after looking at the instructions. Apparently, I roll this dice, and whatever I land on, it has to be that number of pages. So 3 would be 300, 5 would be 500, and this will not happen. I don't even know if I have any books that are over 600 pages, but let's see what I get. 2. So this will probably be a very short book since it has to be 200 something pages. All right, for roll number 2, we landed on dice roulette, and you will have seen me roll the die and get a 2, meaning that the page count has to be 200 something pages. I have selected Sundial by Catriona Ward. This is 292 pages long. In this book, we are following a woman who thinks there might be something wrong with her daughter. Can you guess that this is the book that I want to read alongside The Push? This mother is seeing that her daughter seems to be talking to people that aren't there, as well as collecting bones. This mother's family has a bit of an odd past, and she thinks that that may be what's impacting her daughter, and so the two of them head to the desert. I believe we also read from the daughter's point of view, and the daughter seems to understand that there's a good possibility that only one of them leaves the desert. I really hope that I like this book, especially the writing. Catriona Ward is an author that has a couple other books out there that I am interested in reading, including The House on Needless Street. But also, once again, I hope that this mother-daughter paranoid relationship is something that I really enjoy. All right, roll number 3 out of 6. A 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is candy corn. Let me check what that prompt means. All right, so it turns out candy corn means a very sweet read. It's kind of like just vibes, like a cute romance. So something along those lines, and I can definitely do that. For roll number 3, we got Candy Corn, which is just a really sweet book. This is the one where I am doubling up, and I will be using the Cam Fan book for this. As I mentioned before, I'm assuming that it's just going to be a sweet and smutty time. All right, roll number 4 out of 6. We have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What does that say? There is nothing I do better than revenge. I don't know what that means, so let me check again. All right, so it turns out this is just a book with a revenge plot line. So we'll see if I can find something with that. All right, so for roll number 4, we landed on There Is Nothing I Do Better Than Revenge, which is pretty much a book that includes some sort of revenge aspect to it. Now, I may be stretching this a little bit because, of course, I don't know how much revenge is gonna be in here, but I am selecting The Reich by Lily Mayne. This is the 3rd book in the Monstrous series. This is a series that takes place in post-apocalyptic America. About 20 years ago, there was a rift between worlds and a bunch of different creatures crossed over, and our military decided to bomb the absolute crap out of them, which kind of destroyed America as a whole. A lot of people now either live in overcrowded cities, walled cities that are controlled by the military bases, or are considered raiders and live out in what is considered the wastes where the monsters roam. Each of these books follows a different monster as they find their love interest. All of these so far have been male-male partnerships. In this book, we're obviously following the Reich, and based off what I know from this type of creature that I've learned from the world building in other books, is that they are usually not overly aggressive unless you hurt something they love, which is kind of one of those, if you hurt what I love, I will get revenge and kill you kind of situations, which is why I'm selecting this book. In this book, our love interest is a raider who lives out in the wastes, and he helps free our Reich from a situation that I'm not going to talk about because it could be spoilery to the previous books, but pretty much he takes them back to camp and they start to develop feelings for each other. But obviously the Reich is incredibly powerful amongst monsters, and so there are a lot of people and monsters hunting him. So I'm very excited. I have been having so much fun with this series. Soul Eater is the first one. I gave it 5 stars, and Eden was the second one, and I gave that 4.5 stars. So I have high expectations. This is a 5-star prediction. All right, on to roll number 5 out of 6. 3. 1, 2, 3. Most recently we purchased. Moving on to roll number 5, we had most recent purchase. So technically the 3 books that I got during Stuff Your Kindle are the most recent books I got, but I didn't purchase them because they were free. So the last book that I purchased with actual money was Heaven Official's Blessing, Volume 4 by Mo Xiong Tong Shiu. And just look at that cover. Let's just admire it for a moment. I'm so excited to be finally getting to this volume. Volume 3 was kind of the first volume where I was really enjoying the series. So I'm hoping that this series just continues on a upward slope when it comes to enjoyment. We are following Shilong in this, and he is a prince of a prosperous nation that ascended to godhood. However, he ended up falling from godhood at one point, reascending, falling, and has now reascended for the 3rd time. The story does jump a little bit with timelines. We are following him during his 3rd ascension, but we have also gotten glimpses of his past. During his 3rd ascension, he is approached by Hao Cheng, who I think also goes by Sanlong, and he is a very powerful and dangerous ghost king, but he is also a man very deeply devoted to Shilong. In the 3rd book, we started to get a little a little something something when it came to the romance aspect of this series. If you're looking for a very slow burn kind of situation, then this series definitely works for this. This also obviously has some slight paranormal aspects to it because we are dealing with the afterlife and the ghosts that are wreaking havoc on the human world that the gods have to deal with. This book also has some pictures throughout it, and obviously the cover illustration is just so amazing. And look at that. Oh man, these are just a good time, so highly suggest checking them out. They are translated from Mandarin. All right, and what should be our final roll? Roll number 6 out of 6. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are burning the witches even if you aren't one. So this might be a book with witchy vibes, but let me double check. All right, yes, so it is either witchy vibes or the occult or cults in general. So that I can definitely do. All right, guys, and our final roll we got, they are burning all the witches even if you aren't one, I think was the wording there. And this is pretty much a prompt that has witch vibes, occult vibes, cult vibes kind of situation, and I'm going with cult vibes because I am going to read Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. I have been wanting to pick this book up so badly for some reason. I'm just like super in the mood for it. I believe this is a YA story, but it is known for being rather gruesome and gory. We are following a trans main character, a boy named Benji, and he is a part of a cult which is responsible for releasing the monster that caused Armageddon on Earth. So this is post-apocalyptic as well. At the beginning of the story, our main character runs away from his cult, which is a problem for them because he contains their monster within him. He finds a refuge within a community center that is filled with queer teenagers, and there I believe he starts to feel for their leader, but also has suspicions about the leader's reasoning for allowing Benji to be with them. So I have heard incredible things about this book. I'm a little nervous that my expectations are too high, but I have to admit this is also a 5-star read. All right, guys, so we have these books as well as Novice Dragoneer, Mexican Gothic, Cam Fan, and Authority as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 books on this month's TBR. I do usually read over 10 books a month, so I think I might be able to do it as long as I don't have too much crazy stuff occurring this month. I do think that this is an excellent TBR. I am incredibly excited to get to it. I will probably be vlogging throughout October quite a bit because I took a break from it for a while. But guys, let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Spoiler free, obviously. And also let me know what you're planning in the month of October and if you're taking part in any readathons. As always, thank you so much for your support by watching my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!